Welcome to the day 5 of this FDP. The first session would be handled by Rajalakshmi Madam. It's my privilege to introduce the speaker for the session. Rajalakshmi started her career as a software developer in JP Morgan Chase in 2015, and in 2018, after looking at the waste menace in Mumbai, decided to apply her technical skills in the field of sustainable development by joining Sahas. Since then, she has led multiple projects in Sahas like restoration of lake, electronic waste management in urban as well as rural Karnataka, app development to assess the social impact of projects, algorithm development to calculate GHG emissions, policy recommendations for electronic waste management, etc. Apart from implementing projects to manage waste, she has also presented multiple papers on electronic waste management in multiple publications. She is also a musician and loves jamming. She has been nominated as the Wall of Fame in MTV Nescafe Labs multiple times. I welcome you, Rajalakshmi ma'am, for the session. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Balchandra, Dr. Balchandra. And thank you, Rajeshwari ma'am, for inviting me for this session. Really honored to be a part of this series which you are conducting since a couple of days. So, can we quickly start, or are we supposed to
We can
say?
start. We can
Okay,
start. I mean, it's
sure,
time.
sure.
We can start. I have made you co-host. You can share. I mean, you should not have any problem.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, is my screen visible?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So I'll be majorly covering what is waste and how can we manage waste in a sustainable manner, and what is the importance of technology in this sector. So I would be giving a few examples of how we use technology to solve the problem of waste, and also give you a brief introduction of the different types of waste and how those can be managed sustainably. Okay, so starting with a brief introduction about Sahas. So, Sahas is a non-profit organization which was founded in 2001. It was founded by Wilma Rodriguez. She was a journalist and she used to travel a lot, and she also had this role of welcoming tourists and everything. So she used to take them to places. She was also a tour guide. So she visited Madurai Meenakshi temple once with the tourist, and she saw that the front face of Madurai Meenakshi temple looks so beautiful, but right next to it, she saw lots of waste which is being dumped, and the tourists noticed that, and they started asking her this question, like, why is a waste being dumped like this all around such beautiful places? And that's the time, that's one point where this idea of starting an NGO came into her mind, and she really worked hard to look at the different ways in which we can handle the waste properly, because in back in 2001 there weren't even any rules for managing waste sustainably. But she invested a lot of time and understood the different streams of waste, and also started coming up with solutions for all the difficult streams of waste. She's also contributed a lot in terms of coming up with policies and rules for waste management in India. So that's the start of Sahas, and we focus on holistic and scientific solutions to responsibly manage municipal solid waste. So and we are also a FCRA certified organization, which means that we can accept foreign funds for our projects. And we believe in this policy that waste, if managed at source, becomes a resource. And as you can see, the tagline of Sahas, it is nothing is waste. So at Sahas, we do not consider any material to be waste. We believe that every waste which is generated, if it is managed at source, can become a resource. And we also focus on building communities across rural and urban India, uh, wherein can use the concept of reducing, reusing, and recycling. So we have come up with a lot of entrepreneurial models across these hours, and we promote building of such SHGs and groups in the community. So coming to our objective is to maximize resource recovery from waste, as I was mentioning in the previous slide, and also to bring about a behavioral change in the community. Okay, so we focus on sensitizing the community about the different streams of waste and how they can be a part of the solution, and we help in bringing about behavior change. The next thing is dignified livelihood opportunities. So our founders has also received Global Citizenship Award primarily for her work in improving the quality of life of waste workers in India. So we focus a lot in ensuring that we provide dignified livelihood opportunities to the waste workers. So coming to the next objective that we have, which is strong monitoring and supervision process. So although it is important to find out solutions to different streams of waste, it is equally important to keep a track of the data, keep a track of the quantity of waste generated and how it is processed, and all and what are the GHG emissions which is released by following different processes. So we keep a close tab on all the processes which is involved in managing the waste so that we can come up with a optimum solution. So these are few impact numbers of Sahas. So we, on an average, handle 41 tons of dry waste every month, and 20 tons of wet waste, and about 2.5 to 3 tons of e-waste on a monthly basis. We reach out to more than 3 lakh households per month. We are spread across multiple states in the country, and we're working in more than 50 villages in India, and also more than 5 to 6 ULBs in India. So we have a widespread in terms of our reach of waste management policies, and we also focus on GHG emission reduction of GHG emissions, as I was mentioning. So on the right side of the presentation, I have certain numbers which is written with certain icons. Can one of you tell me what these refer to? I want the session to be more interactive. So can one of you just unmute yourself and tell me what do you think the numbers and the icons on the right refer to?
If somebody can actually ask me, I can unmute. Asha has to be muted.
You can also put it in the chat. You need not unmute. You can also put it in the chat. I think chat should be accessible to all, right? Valchandran?
Yeah, chat is accessible to everyone. Yeah.
Yes. So do let me know if you have any responses because I'm seeing another monitor. Yeah. So anyone? There's 3 which says good health and well-being. 6 says clean water and sanitation. 11 says sustainable cities and communities. 12 responsible consumption and production. 13 climate action. So any guesses? Has anyone heard about SDGs? What does that refer to? SDGs? Global goals, sustainable development goals. Yeah, so SDGs basically refer to sustainable development goals. So usually, any country's GDP is totally dependent on the economic goals, but on a global level, we are focusing more on the sustainable development goals. What is the difference between the economic goals and sustainable development goals? So, sustainable goals refers to economic achieving the economic goals without depleting the natural resources. So in short, that is what it refers to. So we have equal focus for the natural resources as well as economic development. So that is what SDGs refer to. And on an organization, so there are 17 SDGs in total. And as an organization, we focus on these five SDGs, primarily these five SDGs. That's why the numbers are not in order, and you have one icon for each number, right? So the third SDG stands for good health and well-being. So since we focus on livelihood, dignified livelihood of waste workers, and also through managing the waste properly, sustainably, we have improved the health of the people in the community as well. So the instances of malaria, dengue has reduced in those communities since the waste are not lying here and there and waste is properly managed. So that's how we contribute to SDG 3. Second is SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. So lot of our waste actually enters into the water body, right? Knowingly or unknowingly, it reaches to the water body. So through our intervention, the littering and the dumping definitely goes down in the community, and hence we ensure that the community has clean water for their usage. That's how we contribute towards SDG 6. Next is SDG 11, which refers to sustainable cities and communities. So, since we believe that nothing is waste and our model is circular, so whatever waste is generated, so let me give you an example of food waste. So, if we have food waste, we ensure that it is processed and we make compost out of it, and that compost goes back to the farm, and that farm definitely cultivates food back. So that's a circular model. So it's a sustainable model, end to end it is sustainable. So that's how we contribute towards SDG 11. This is one example of wet waste, but similar models are followed for other streams of waste as well. So coming to next point, which is SDG 12. SDG 12 refers to responsible consumption and production. So as I was saying, we have a lot of focus on the three R's, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. So the reduce part actually contributes to SDG 12. So in all the communities that we work, we ensure that they do not use single-use plastics, because single-use plastics are not recyclable. Yeah. So so what we can actually do is to reduce the consumption of single-use plastic and start using long-lasting or alternatives, right? So that's how we contribute towards responsible consumption and production. This is one such example, but we also give lot of awareness on another R, which is repair. Okay, so we've seen that in the current generation, since the products are available, I mean, the products are have become so cheap that people prefer to buy a new product than getting it repaired. So we have built a lot of entrepreneurs who support the repair culture, because by repairing a product, we actually increase the lifespan of the product. So that is also another example of responsible consumption and production. Then coming to the next SDG, which is SDG 13. So SDG 13 refers to climate action. So of course, because of all our intervention in managing waste sustainably, the GHG emissions definitely goes down. So since it goes down, of course, we are working towards uh, reducing the impact of climate change in the community. So that's how we contribute towards all these sustainable development goals. Yeah. So this is what we usually see. We all would have seen this place, right? This is Taj Mahal, and we would have seen this beautiful scenic view every time we go to that place, right? What we wouldn't have seen is this, right? So although we have a front view where it looks so beautiful, right next to it we have a river, and a lot of parts of this river is polluted because of the waste which is dumped next to it. So this is what we do not see. So India generates 2 lakh tons of waste per day. Okay. And to just explain you how, I mean, quantity wise, how it would look. So 1,000, in order to dispose 1,000 tons per day, we would be actually occupying 4 cricket grounds per year. If we go by this number, if we say instead of 2 lakh tons of waste per day, we're generating 1,000 tons per day. So for 1,000 tons, we would need 4 big cricket grounds per year. So you can imagine the amount of land which we would require to just dump the waste which is being generated in India. And do we have that much space in India? No, right? So it is important to actually focus on ensuring that waste gets converted into resource. So what happens when the waste is dumped in open, right? So waste is either dumped or it is burnt in multiple locations in India. So this is what usually happens in a lot of places in India. And because of that, we have so many diseases coming in place and so many toxic elements which has been released out, right? We also, I mean, it is very common to see fire accidents at dump sites these days. So there's a big dump site in Mumbai, Deonar region, and a couple of times the flights were cancelled because the fire had, I mean, we had fire in that place, and the fume was so thick that it was reducing the visibility for the airline staffs. And that's why there were a couple of instances where the flights were delayed because of this reason. And this is very common in India as of now. Even in Delhi, we have Ghaziabad, where there are so many big dump sites. And I had visited Dehradun last year from Delhi. So when we go via Ghaziabad, just before Ghaziabad, it looks like a normal city, and as soon as we enter Ghaziabad, it's completely gray. The visibility is very bad, very bad. And immediately when you come out of Ghaziabad, it is very different. It's opposite to what it was. It is very clean air, because Dehradun, so not much waste is dumped there. So the view difference between Ghaziabad and Dehradun is completely different. So we have a lot of such sites in India where the waste is being dumped, and fire accidents are very common in these dump sites, because we have wet waste also, which is being a part of this waste, which is dumped, and wet waste usually has methane content. So that actually leads to these fire accidents at dump site. And there has also been instances where the lands, because of the amount of waste which is being piled on top of the waste, it becomes like a mountain. And it also happens that there's a landslide uh, because of that, right? So you can see so many articles about it. So there has also been instances where these landslide occurred, and the people who are working in the dump sites to just fetch out the valuables, they died because of the collapse. So can you imagine a death worse than this? Right? This shouldn't happen anywhere, right? So we can, if we can solve this problem on an individual basis, why don't we solve it? Why do we want to create a manual crisis, right? So let's go back before we had humans in Earth. So what was the situation before we had humans in Earth? Do you think there would be waste? Do you think there would be waste? Anyone? Before we had humans in Earth. So there'll be just animals and birds and plants. Do you think they generate waste? No, right? So it is only after humans started introducing things like plastic, have we seen so much of waste being lying everywhere, right? So we have plastics everywhere, from deepest oceans to highest mountains. So we also have a place in Pacific Ocean which is called Garbage Patch. Have you guys heard about it? Anyone? So it is actually a man-made waste
No,
island, if I can call that. Yeah, sorry, Balchandran, you're saying something?
No, 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 no. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, garbage patch is kind of similar to an island which is made up of waste. Okay, so it is right in the middle of Pacific Ocean. So a lot of waste keeps being dumped in the oceans across the world. So because of the ocean currents, all the waste has actually come together in a specific point, and that point is not, I mean, not less than an island. It's pretty huge, and it is referred to as garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean, right? So we have such places as well, and we have waste in Arctic Sea. We have waste in the deepest trench, ocean trenches. So we have waste everywhere right now. So why is that happening? Because we have so much of single-use plastics which is being used right now. And if you could see some numbers, with respect to global annual consumptions, so these are the numbers in millions. So we have so many millions of plastic bags still being used by a lot of people. In spite of having so much of awareness about it, in spite of having ban on this, we still see plastic bags being sold in the market because the demand for it never stops, right? People keep asking the vendors if they can give the plastic bags, right? So they're not left with any other option than breaking the rules and still procuring these items. Same goes to plastic bottles, PET bottles. Although PET is recyclable, but just look at the intensity. I mean, look at how much is the annual consumption for it. So let it be a normal conference which we have, or any wedding any event is not complete without having those small Bisleri bottles, right? So can you imagine how much of waste is generated because of those small bottles? It's not only about the plastic, it's also about wasting water. So not everyone drinks the entire the entire quantity, right? They drink about some of the quantity and then just leave it there. Even water is wasted, so are we generating waste in terms of plastic. So these are some some items which we should try and reduce in our daily consumption, because on an annual basis, if we look at it in a global perspective, the consumption is way beyond our imagination. Even straw, like lot of instances we can avoid straw, right? So we also had certain online campaigns around drinking coconut water without straw, right? I've seen that in south a lot, not much in the north of India, but in the south we had various campaigns where people were drinking the coconut water without straws, right? So if that's possible, why do we still prefer to use straws? And if we still need a straw, why don't we switch to steel straws? Because that lasts for a longer time, right? So we have to actually be conscious. We should make conscious effort of understanding what is the impact of everything that we are using on a daily life, and make sure to just think before we use that, because it's very easy to just use it for a few seconds and dispose it, but there isn't a proper circular loop to ensure that whatever you're disposing is getting recycled. So why don't we take initiative and think before we actually use any of these items, right? So that's numbers about the plastic growth as well. So if we see the current usage of plastics, the estimation is that by 2050 we'll have so much of waste in the ocean. So a lot of plastics is actually ending up in oceans. You would have seen a lot of videos and photographs of aquatic animals being stuck with plastics, and a lot of cows eating a lot of plastic in the from the black spots, which is very common to see across every street in India. So so many cows, so many cattle have actually died because of eating plastics along with food from the street. And and even that is happening with the marine life. Knowingly or unknowingly, even marine life, we have impacted marine life. In fact, 99% of biodiversity loss has happened in marine life because of just ocean pollution, plastic pollution. So the quantity of plastic seen in waste is 1 per 5 fishes, as you can see in the image, in 2014. But the prediction is that it would be 50-50 ratios by 2050. So just imagine our oceans would be filled with plastics instead of marine animals. So this is with respect to few stats on how plastics are ending up in oceans. So on an average, one garbage truck is emptied in an ocean every minute. Okay, that's why this prediction is so bad. Like 50%, and by 2050 we'll have 50% of ocean filled with plastic and not with marine animals. So how do we solve this? How do we solve this issue? So we've spoken a lot about the problem. Now let's come towards the solution part. So first step, as I was discussing, is refusing single-use plastics. Right? So right from plastic bags to balloons. So balloons are so common. Like if we have any events, we definitely prefer to have balloons. Okay, it looks very nice. I agree. It looks very pretty. It looks very nice. But then if you look at the recyclability of it, so as soon as the balloon is blown out, you have a very small piece which is left. Okay, and how difficult would it be to actually recycle that piece, right? So these are few small steps which you could take on an individual basis to reduce the generation of waste at first level. Because although we can go towards recycling and composting and all that processing of waste, but at the very first step is to refuse, and so that you can reduce the quantum of waste which is generated right now in the country, right? So these are few single-use items which you could straight away say no to. One is plastic bags, then we have tissues. So tissues are very common. So tissues, we have tissues being placed almost everywhere in our workplace, even in the cars. So we should try and avoid that. We have recyclable tissues as well. So we could look at those options and prefer using that instead of these bleached white tissues, right? Then we have straws. I have already explained about straws. Then we have plastic spoons and plastic single-use cutlery. So in a lot of events, it is very easy for us to, procure lots and lots of plastic containers, and so that we avoid the washing part and maintaining part of the cutleries. But actually, it generates a lot of waste, right? So if just consider, you're just considering one event which you are organizing, but there will be so many people who would be organizing those events. So just imagine the quantum of waste which is generated through this approach, right? So we should try to switch to reusable cutleries in our events as much as possible, right? Then balloons I've already explained, and same goes for PET bottles. PET bottles, although they are recyclable, we should think before using these items. If it is not that important, if we can carry our own water bottles, why don't we carry that, right? So we just have to take a conscious effort to actually reduce the amount of waste which is generated. What are the options that you could switch to? One is definitely steel bottles, which I've already covered in the previous slide. So steel bottle or any reusable bottle. Okay. And then coming to bags, what is the replacement for plastic bags? We can use cloth bags or any reusable bags. Okay. So then I've spoken about cutleries also. If we could, so there are a lot of options that helps us in renting cutleries during our events. So we can actually use those options and rent cutleries in during our events. And instead of tissues, we can have cloth napkins. And instead of using plastic straws, we can either use steel straw or even bamboo straws. Okay, so these are few examples of how we could move towards low waste lifestyle. Okay, although we've called it zero waste life, but it is actually taking a step towards low waste lifestyle, right? Then coming to the second solution. Second solution, in order to improve the processing of waste, we should segregate our waste. Okay, so what are the different categories of waste? Can one of you tell me what biodegradable waste refers to? What are the items that come under biodegradable waste? It's pretty easy. Even the pictures, are very clear. It clearly shows what falls under biodegradable.
Mostly the food items that will come.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So food waste. So biodegradable waste basically refers to food waste or anything which can be composted naturally, which degrades naturally. Okay. So that is what comes under biodegradable waste. And what about non-biodegradable waste?
Right from plastic to diapers and all those things which cannot be, bottles and all those things, they just stay as it is in the environment for years to years.
Hmm. So basically plastics, not diapers, because diapers cannot be recycled. So anything which can
But
be
that
recycled.
cannot be recycled, but it will still stay and add to waste, right?
Yeah, so that basically goes to domestic hazardous diapers
Mm.
because that has to be processed separately. Otherwise, if it is mixed with plastic, it basically spoils the lot. So that's why it is categorized under domestic hazardous. Diapers and sanitary napkins and all that, those comes under domestic hazardous. And non-biodegradable majorly consist of items which are recyclable, which are not degradable but are recyclable. Okay.
Okay, okay. I see it in
So
the next
yeah,
red color. Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
So domestic hazardous refers to all those, even the blades, the shaving kits that you have blades which is being used. So anything which is actually, uh, uh, which would actually have fluids, basically are fluids in it, or it has some remains from our body, comes under domestic hazardous. Okay, and even glass bottles, because if it's a broken glass, so we've kept an image of broken glass, right? So broken glasses cannot be recycled, so it comes under domestic hazardous because it has to be sent to incineration facility, right? So now coming to the fourth category, which is e-waste. So any guesses on what e-waste would consist of, and what is the full form of e-waste, if anyone could
Electronic
also.
waste are floppy disks and
Yes,
maybe all our hard drives, everything related to
correct.
the computer, yeah, and other
Yes.
electronic gadgets, even the phone.
Yes. So basically, anything which runs on electricity comes under electronic waste, right? Or even the batteries. So all that comes under electronic waste. And it is kept separate from other waste because the recycling procedure for electronic items is very different, very much different than the plastic items. Because if we see electronic waste, it's a mixture of plastic and metal. If we take an example of our phone, it has plastic as well as metal which has been there, right? So that's why, and even glass, we also have this display screen and glass, so it is different. It is a combination of multiple uh, items, and that's why electronic waste has to be first dismantled and then sent for recycling to respective recycling centers. Okay, so that's why electronic waste also comes as a fourth category. So why should we segregate waste at source? Okay, so at our home, we would have seen our mom having this what do you say, mustard seeds, jeera, and all separately in separate containers, right? So what would happen if we mix it? What would happen if we mix it? Will it be easy for her to use? Can she separate it while she's cooking? No, right? This is one example. Another example is you can see the shopkeepers. So they keep all the notes separately. So if there's a 100 rupee note, if they have 50 rupee note, we keep it separately. And even for that matter, our clothes, we keep our clothes separately. We have shirts at one place, pants at one place. So when we actually follow segregation on a daily basis for multiple other things, then why don't we follow it for waste? Right? So even for waste, it would be important. If it is mixed at the first level, just imagine the quantity of energy or the time which would actually go in segregating that waste further into four categories. If you would segregate it at source, it would become very much easier for the waste workers to process it further. Also, it will improve the working conditions of waste workers. So has anyone visited the dump sites or any landfill sites? or have you seen the landfill sites in your areas? Yes, no?
Everywhere it's there.
Yes. So it's a common sight to actually see these kabadi walas or the scrap dealers to go into that dump site and pick up valuable items from there, right? So usually what we actually see, excuse me, so what we actually see in those dump sites is mixed waste. So, and these scrap dealers, they go into that dump site and pick out the valuable items from there. So that is the reason that they do not have hygienic working condition. So why don't we segregate our waste at source so that we can actually improve their livelihood, dignity also, uh, and they'll easily get the valuable dry waste out, and they can even register under multiple schemes that the government has for such communities. They can easily register themselves in those schemes and improve their lifestyle, right? So one step of our segregation can actually help a lot of folks who are working in this sector, right? So it's obviously better to segregate. And is it difficult to segregate? No, right? So it's just about changing your habit. So it's just about using 3 separate bins instead of one bin every day. So if we have 3 separate bins, we would easily just dispose it off in the right place, just like we are doing it for multiple other things at home, right? So it is easy to segregate. So, and also it is mandated by law. So the 2016 solid waste management rule actually mandates segregation of waste at source. So it mentions that the waste should be segregated in 3 ways. So of course we should, if we are pointing fingers on government on not taking steps to actually manage our waste or keep our cities clean, we should also look at the rules that they've put in place to solve this. So it is a two-way process. Only if we also put in equal effort can we together make our country a better and a cleaner country. And then coming to the main point, which is reduces cost of processing waste. So as I was saying, since the time and effort which would go in segregating the mixed waste would be less, of course, then we will get better rate. I mean, we'll definitely reduce the processing cost, and the scrap dealers or the waste workers would get better rates for the dry waste which they are sorting. So let me just also cover this part that although we are separating it into 4 categories, in the processing center, it is further sorted so that it reaches to respective recycling agencies. There are multiple recycling centers for different kind of waste which we generate. I'll cover that in the next slide, but this is just to give you an understanding that we are just segregating it into 3 uh, different categories, but actually the waste workers would further segregate it into 18 to 20 categories for them to actually ensure that the waste ends up in the recycling center and not in the landfills. Okay, so uh, hence it improves the recycling potential of the waste which is generated. And last, and the important point, which is reduces pollution significantly. So if we start segregating our waste, it would definitely go for processing. So if it goes for processing, then the landfill would be reduced. So initially we saw 4 cricket grounds for 1,000 tons per day waste generation, right? So it would definitely reduce the amount of land which we would need for processing waste would definitely reduce. Also the burning wouldn't happen. So burning is currently happening so that the land I mean the land is cleared and the land can again be used for dumping waste. So if we segregate our waste and if we send it to recycling facility, of course the pollution would reduce since the burning instances or the dumping instances would reduce. So coming to how do we actually recover the resources? So biodegradable waste, this is the process that we follow in our processing center. So the food waste which comes, it is actually put in the trough. So there's a secondary sorting which happens. Why does the secondary sorting happen? So what would be the different things which we would be sorting here? Any rough guesses? So it is already food waste which is coming. So what do you think would be the difficulties? Why are we further sorting it? Any guesses? So, okay, let me give you an example. So, do you think vegetable peels and coconut shell would compost in the same period of time? Do you think the composting period required for coconut shell and vegetable peels would be same? No. Yes. So, what about watermelon shells? Watermelon shells and fruit leftovers, right? So there'll be different composting period for different kinds of food waste which we generate. Even the bones. So we will have bones coming out from the non-veg waste. So even that would not degrade soon. So that has to be separated out because we'll have to shred it. Okay, so we have a shredding machine. So there is one machine for shredding the leaves because dry leaves acts as a agent to enhance the decomposition of waste. And we also have another shredder for shredding these hard items. So watermelon shells, we have coconut shells. We also have multiple other things which are kind of harder than the majority of the things which we generate in food waste. So that is the secondary sorting which happens in the first level, right?
Yeah,
So after we do that, we shred.
quick
Sorry.
one quick question I had.
Yeah.
You were mentioning about burning of waste. Is it advisable? Is it not? I couldn't get that point.
So I was mentioning that if we ensure segregation, the waste would be processed in the right manner, right? It would go to
Yeah.
recycling and composting. So the amount of waste which would be dumped in the dump sites would reduce, and definitely people will not burn it. So currently, lot of places people are burning waste so that that place can become an empty spot again. So to dump the other waste which is coming on a daily basis. So as I was discussing, the amount of space that we would require to actually dump the waste which we generate on a daily basis is huge, and we do not have space. So in order to save space, people, burn the waste so that that space is open for dumping again.
Yeah,
So if we
is it causing
segregate and
is pollution the issue to burn,
yes,
or is there
yes,
any other issue? Because
yes.
if it's in the outskirts, is there any harm still burning? Because again, few ways maybe better off burning it, or else I'm not sure. Like you should never burn any kind of waste. That part, because
Yeah,
some okay, I guess some of them some kind of waste maybe burning may be okay. Depends on which one. I mean, I can't do that with any other e-waste or something. But if it's something which can be burned, maybe I'll still get space and get rid of the waste in a faster way.
yeah. So you would have seen this coconut coils being burnt in the rural area for heating water or something like that, right? Those are still fine because those are natural and they would not have toxic elements which would be released. But plastics and electronic waste, as you rightly said, it has multiple toxic elements. So electronic waste definitely has mercury, lead, cadmium, and plastics have fluorons and multiple other things, right? So if we burn them together, just imagine the kind of toxic elements which would be released in the air, and it will also lead to lot of leaching in the soil. So it not only would cause air pollution, it would also cause soil land pollution, because if the waste is dumped in the same place for a long time, it will start leaching. The waste will have lot of leachate which would come in, which will seep into the soil and spoil the soil as well. And if there's a water body right next to it, then the situation becomes even worse. So that's the impact of burning or dumping all the waste which is generated. So what I'm trying to say here is, if we segregate our waste into different categories, we can avoid this. It goes for processing. 90% of waste which we generate on a daily basis can be processed. The 10% which I'm saying cannot be processed is the domestic hazardous waste, and that goes for incineration. But even when it goes for incineration, it is co-processed in a closed chamber in a restricted temperature and all that. So there's a proper guidelines for that as well, so that the toxic emissions are not that prominent in such combustions. I hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so food waste, I was actually explaining food waste, I think. Yeah. So food waste, if we put it as it is, it will take a lot of time for everything to compost. So the processing staffs, they further sort it into harder shells and lighter shells, and then the ones which has harder shells are shredded, and then it is mixed with dry leaves, and we keep forming these layers. So as you can see in the tank system, we form multiple layers in the tank. So and after a span of 3 months or so, we have this black gold. So compost is also referred to as black gold. So we have this compost which has been formed, and this compost is further sieved and sent to the farmers so that they can use it for their agricultural purpose. And of course, since we would they would start using compost, they would not actually need much of fertilizers or pesticides. Even for pesticides, we can use the leachate which is generated. So while we compost and fill the waste in the composting tanks, there'll be a liquid which would be coming out, right? Because wet waste is mostly moist. So as it compresses, it also releases certain liquids, which is referred to as leachate. And this leachate, if we mix it with water, it also can act as a pesticide. So by processing our wet waste, we are actually replacing the chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So this is what we've done in multiple villages where we work, and the farmers have seen really good results after using the compost and the leachates as fertilizers and pesticides. So this is how the biodegradable waste is recovered. So we also have biogas facilities, which we are still trying out, because as of now, it is capital heavy. I mean, it's very expensive in terms of fitting it anywhere, and also storing it. So it basically storing it in certain containers and sending it to multiple places, that becomes difficult. However, if we have any restaurants or any points where we could directly send the biogas for utilization, we do try that as well in our projects, right? So that is yet another way of processing wet waste. Then coming to dry waste. So dry waste, after we segregate and give, it is further sorted into 18-20 categories. So plastic itself has 6 main categories. Okay, what are the 6 main categories? We have PET, we have HDP, we have PVC, we have LDP and PP and PS. So there are different categories of plastic as well based on the density, and we further sort it in the sorting area. And we also have other classifications like metals, and then we will have cardboards, and we have different types of metals in that also. Then we have papers. So we do sorting into 18 to 20 categories, and then it is sent to recycling centers. So we also make products out of it wherever possible. If there is a and if there is an industry where near our community that can make recycled products, we send our waste to them also, so that they can make recycled papers. And also there are few firms that make roofing sheets using Tetra Pak. Okay, not only roofing sheets, they also make a lot of different types of furnitures using Tetra Pak sheets. So we send the Tetra Packs to them also, in case they want, if we have any industries nearby which would help us in that. Otherwise we send it for recycling. So recycling, they would further separate it. The Tetra Pack inner layer would be separated, outer layer would be separated, and then it would be sent to a respective processing facility. It's a long journey, but the whole concept of this is it's a circular model. So once we segregate, it actually acts as a resource for the next iteration. So it is actually circular, and we would not have much which would be just ending up in the landfill. So our economy is, as of now, take, make, dispose. But what we are trying to achieve is a circular model. So whatever product is actually with us, after it ends, after it reaches its end, it should go to the recycling or the composting facility and again be used in the production channel, so that the model is circular. Yeah. So that's what we are trying to achieve through our programs. Then coming to e-waste, so as I was explaining earlier, e-waste is separated, we segregate e-waste into different category because it is a combination of multiple items which is being used for making any electronic goods. And that is why it becomes important for us to have a separate provision to dispose e-waste as well. So now I would just, I was saying that I'll brief you about waste management and how we are actually solving it and how technology is helping us in these initiatives, right? So I wanted to take example of this project, which is called Be Responsible. It's a e-waste program which we are running in Bangalore. Okay, so we started this program in the year 2016, and it's been 5 years, and we've collected more than 100 tons of e-waste from the households. Okay, so what we have also done is we have actually made an entrepreneur who could facilitate the recycling of e-waste through his collection a collection solution. Yeah, so that's how we have made an entrepreneur also for ensuring end-to-end traceability of electronic waste which is generated by the households. So there is a mechanism in place to actually collect e-waste from bulk waste generators. Now bulk waste generators refers to all the colleges, all the IT tech parks, or all the corporate offices. So all that comes under bulk waste generators, and there is a proper rule for all the bulk waste generator to actually dispose it off directly to the recycler. Okay, but there aren't much provisions in place for the households to dispose the e-waste. So even if segregation is happening, and even if the collection agency is collecting segregated waste from our household, mostly they have solutions for wet and dry waste and not for e-waste, because e-waste is something which we do not dispose on a regular basis. We have wet and dry waste on a daily basis, but e-waste we do not generate on a daily basis. So hence it becomes difficult to fit it in the existing collection system. And that is why we had tried this entrepreneurship model, which has really helped. So, and it acts as an income for a person who was more keen on being a kabadi wala than being a authorized collection agency for electronic waste. So here's a small video. I would want to show a small video to just give you a glimpse of the social inclusion program which we did for e-waste.
Hi everyone.
Let me know if the audio is it audible? Can anyone confirm?
Yes, madam.
Be
It is audible.
Hi everyone.
Okay,
Be
thank you.
Responsible, a joint initiative of Sahas and Insight, is a program through which we manage e-waste of individual households, channelizing it to authorized recyclers, ensuring that they reach their proper end destination. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Anand, who has been at the helm of this project for more than 3 years. He started off as a member of the collection team and soon became an intricate part of the program. Being a part of the collection process and interacting with many people has given him an understanding of the dynamics of e-waste management. Along with his skills and his experience, it's also his sahas, his courage, that has propelled him to begin his own firm, e-Prakriti, and independently handle e-waste from individual households in the city. Let us now hear it from Mr. Anand.
Namaste.
ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ಆನಂದ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ನಾನು 3 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ನಾನು ಸಹ ಸಂಜೀವದಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ನನಗೆ ಇ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಏನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನನಗೆ ಬಿ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸಿಬಲ್ ಜೊತೆ ನಾನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ 3 ವರ್ಷ ನಾನು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು ಇದು ಇ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಯಾವ ತರ ಏನು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹಾನಿಕರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಫಿಲ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಸಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ಸುಮಾರು ಸಾರಿ ನಾನು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ರೋಡ್ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಬಿಸಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಬಿಸಾಕಕ್ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಸಾಹಸ್ ಸಂಜೀವ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನನಗೊಂದು ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಈ ಪ್ರಕೃತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಆ ಕಂಪನಿ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಾನು ಕಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಥರೈಸ್ಡ್ ರೀಸೈಕಲ್ ನಾನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
Change is the only constant, and we all know that. We are a bit sad that Be Responsible is ending, but we are more than happy to convey that ePrakriti will now be undertaking our role by providing a channel for safe, scientific, and responsible disposal of e-waste in Bengaluru.
Yeah, so this was a short video about our social inclusion program. It's in the program called Be Responsible. So in this, we were able to handle this well only because of technology. Okay, so the main ingredient for making this product was technology. So how did we achieve this? So we had a simple app which the Zoho creator actually helped us in making. And we had a simple app where the entrepreneur you can actually put in the request which we have received. So there are 3 modes through which we do collection. One is we have multiple e-waste drop boxes placed across the city, which would be emptied on a monthly basis. And we have second mechanism where apartments or residential welfare associations register with us for a regular pickup. And then we do a monthly pickups from there also. The third option is we have a hotline number. So people can call up on the hotline number, and then we would plan a pickup accordingly. So these are the 3 mechanisms. So now if we wouldn't have had technology to solve, schedule these pickups or keep the end-to-end traceability of what we are collecting, it would have been difficult for us to actually have a social inclusion model in this case. Okay, so since we had this app built to ensure that there is a smooth scheduling happening across the project so that it's easier for the entrepreneur to understand which route he has to follow on a daily basis for e-waste collection, it actually helped him in doing it all alone. Okay, initially when we started off, we had a big team which was working behind to ensure that we have multiple apartments for pickups and if we have good enough quantity for the pickups and all those things, because only if the distance and the quantity have a proper ratio will that business be a profitable business for any entrepreneur, right? So then we slowly moved towards this solution of using Zoho Creator, where we were able to do scheduling. And we also did multiple campaigns there. So by the data which we were able to analyze through this app, we understood what kind of campaigns works where and what are the point of generations where the possibility of getting e-waste is more. So we tried to focus there so that it is sustainable for the entrepreneur to collect from those locations. And for the locations which generated less e-waste, we gave them other alternative of having e-waste drop boxes or also using Dunzo facility to Dunzo it directly to the entrepreneur. So this app actually helped us in analyzing that as well. And coming to the traceability. So now through the tool, we have end-to-end traceability of what is the e-waste which is collected from the household, how much are we collecting, what is the type of the e-waste, because as per the rules are really strict for e-waste. Okay, although it's not that strict for solid waste management, it is really strict for e-waste. So we have different item categories which is listed in the rules, and any agency which is working in collection or recycling of e-waste, they have to keep a proper record of the proper record of the e-waste which is being collected or processed by them. right? So through this tool, it became easier for an entrepreneur who doesn't even know English. So this is the backend which I'm showing, but he has a front end form which is really easy to fill, and he doesn't have any understanding of English, or he doesn't know to read or write English, but still it was easier for him to just make few clicks and update the data, so that the app automatically keeps a track of everything that he's collecting and also sending to recycler facility. So this app actually gives the end-to-end traceability to the entrepreneur. Okay, and this also gives traceability to the recycling facility. So even recyclers know what are the item list which is going to come there for recycling, and for them also it is important to map it as per the CPCB rules. So hence recyclers are also willing to collaborate with him since he has a proper data. So we also used digital marketing. So technology, we had two things. One is definitely IT intervention, where we have app-based solutions. And second is digital campaigns. So we all know that the pandemic really hit hard for a lot of businesses in India. And you won't believe that we started this entrepreneurship model during the pandemic. Okay, last year in the month of March is when we started our entrepreneur model. But we used digital campaigns to improve our collection, and we have really been able to collect a lot of e-waste through our campaigns. We used Facebook, we used lot of social media campaigns, we used Google ads, we used email marketing. We had multiple approaches towards digital campaigns, and it actually helped the entrepreneur to ensure that the collection level is maintained. And as of now, he is regularly earning about 25,000 per month through the e-waste which he's collecting. This is, I'm talking about after either, this is the profit which he's earning. So excluding the fuel cost. So he's also using electric vehicles for few closer pickups. So there also the emission is kept in place. So we are ensuring that he uses electric vehicles for the shorter distances, and he uses diesel or petrol vehicles for the longer distances. So he is still able to use 25,000 per month, and his earning was really less while he was not into this business. And now he is a registered entity as per KSPCB and CPCB guidelines, and he also has a proper registration for GST and other things which helps him be a single party firm member. So that's how we were able to achieve this model. So although, yeah, there is a lot of behavioral change which we had to do in the audience, because we do not pay for the e-waste which is collected, neither do we charge for the e-waste which we are collecting. So it's there's no monetary transactions while he does the collection. It is only at the recycler's end where he receives money for the e-waste which he has properly sent out to the recycling facility. So in spite of that, we have a lot of people who are giving e-waste to the entrepreneur and ensuring that the e-waste is recycled efficiently. So this is one example of using technology in social sector. So there's yet another example which I would want to show. So Sahas also has a sister organization which is called Sahas Zero Waste Private Limited. So they look at more of the non-bulk generators. We focus on more the household level generators, and they focus on non-bulk generators. So here's one example of how they are using AI, artificial intelligence, in waste management. So there's a short video for that as well. Yeah, so that was one example of how technology can actually help us in improving the efficiency of sorting of dry waste into further categories so that the recycling becomes easier. So we are working with a lot of, we are keen on using technology to make these process easier, and we continuously ensure that we take proper advice from technical firms to actually have such initiatives a part of these processes which we are doing, because that's how we can actually together achieve this model of circular economy. So we want the mining to be reduced and urban mining to happen. So urban mining basically refers to processing of waste in a way that the processed waste can act as a resource. And since most of the resource recovery happens in cities, it is called as urban mining. It is referred to as urban mining. And normal mining refers to, you know what normal mining refers to. So, and you also know a lot of what are the hazards of mining on a regular basis. So our focus is to move towards urban mining and ensure that the waste is recovered and nothing becomes a waste. So we definitely look at having solutions which are helping us in improving the efficiency of achieving this target. So yeah, so with that, I would just want to close with this note. So I just wanted to just give you a brief of my journey as an environmentalist. So from an IT engineer to an environmentalist. So I joined JP Morgan Chase in 2015, and I was definitely working in the application development part in JP Morgan. And I was in Mumbai back then, and I used to see a lot of waste, which is, always it was always there in the road whenever I traveled. So then I got really disturbed by the waste which I kept on seeing on the roads, and that's when I took this decision of moving to a social space and joined Sahas to mainly help them with the electronic waste program, because I felt that that is kind of connected to the field which I have done my bachelor's on. And I started with that program, but after that I have, as Dr. Balachandran mentioned in the very beginning, I have worked with multiple other projects and been able to contribute really well in terms of multiple approaches of managing the waste and recommending policies for different streams of waste, and managing waste for rural, urban, as well as tourist places. So for all these approaches, I usually use technology to improve the efficiency. And for e-waste program, as I gave you an example, I used the simple technology of having a app-based solution for multiple things, and it actually improved our collection by 10 times. We were able to collect 10 times more e-waste than how much we used to collect initially. So then again, we use digital marketing to increase collection. That is again related to technology. And then now in 2021, we are working on using technology to monitor waste management practices across multiple ULBs, so that we can have a dashboard in place for that as well. Also, although there is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which has been really taken seriously by a lot of ULBs, but they do not have a proper monitoring and evaluation mechanism. So our prime focus is to work on monitoring and evaluation of waste which is generated and processed at ULB level, so that we can have end-to-end traceability of waste which has been generated in ULBs. So that is what we are working towards right now. So I believe in using technology as a enabler in social sector. And do you believe in that? And if yes, and if you would want to work with us in this, so definitely reach out to me in my mail ID, which is rajlakshmi@sahas.org. Looking forward to hear a lot of ideas from all of you. And I'm open for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please feel free to
Thank
ask.
you for a very uh, very useful session. I'm actually like kind of an eye opener, but it shouldn't be like we watch some patriotic movie and get the josh, and I'll say I'll go to join the army, and after 2 minutes it's again not actually in the mood. It shouldn't be like like this. Talk has brought in the josh, and after that again we go back and do the same thing throw everywhere. And if we get back to our old roots, then there is no point actually. Hope somebody, I mean, at least few of us actually take it and do something seriously in this regard. And obviously, government also has to do, but as you told, we also have to be equally responsible. Yes, any
Yeah.
questions? I thank you, Rajalakshmi, for such a wonderful talk. Any questions? We are open for questions. Questions? Anybody? Some people say there are lots of ways in parking sector.
Packaging, yeah.
Packing sector.
Yes.
Okay, packing sector. What is the best way to get rid of them?
Yes. So on a global level, we are looking at circular packaging now. So that's a very new field, niche field, and a lot of us are working towards it. So we have recycled PET, which is one such example for showing how we are actually initiating a change in the packaging industry as well. So recycled rPET, it is also referred as rPET. So you can keep looking at the plastic bottles which you purchase on a daily basis. You would find couple of bottles which has rPET written, okay, which refers to recycled PET. So all the PET bottles which we have, we recycle it in a way that it can be used back in the packaging industry. So this is one example, and a lot of organizations have actually moved towards this idea of using rPET. And yet another example is, have you guys heard about the initiative which has been launched recently by HUL about the smart vending machine? Anyone? Okay, so let me just quickly brief you about that as well. So HUL, they have launched a smart vending machine wherein we can actually refill the products like Surf Excel, Comfort, and multiple other products. I think in that using that machine, we can actually take our containers and fill it in the malls. So they have installed in a couple of malls in Mumbai. So this is another model which is being tried out by multiple firms. So there are two things. One is using recycled material for packaging. Another is coming up with models which completely reduces packaging. So people can get their own containers and get it filled. So that is yet another approach which a lot of packaging industries are trying to move towards. Yeah. And even you would have seen examples of Flipkart and Amazon going zero waste. Moving towards recyclable options for packaging their goods. So they usually most use brown boards for packaging, and also they've reduced the layers of material being used for packaging. Earlier, when we used to, take buy a lot of goods from Amazon, there'll be so much of packaging around it. Now, because of these initiatives, they've actually reduced and found out alternatives using brown boards to actually pack these goods. Yeah. Any other? I hope I answered the question, Shilpa. It was a question from Shilpa, right? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah. One question is like, how have you been um, working in the rural scenario? Like, are you able to reach the rural areas? I mean, if it is restricted only to cities, or have you reached the rural areas? Is one question through Sahas.
Yes. So we are working with rural areas as well as urban areas. We do projects in both the demography, and we also do projects in tourist locations. So because even in tourist place we have a lot of waste which is generated, so we work in all the communities, and we have really seen good cooperation from all the demographies, I would say, across the
So,
country.
yeah,
Again,
any other question? Other thing is like how come few countries in the Europe, I mean, I understand country like India doesn't exist anywhere with 140 crore population, such a over a billion population. So that's a different thing, and also the space is kind of restricted, constricted. So how do countries, some countries in the Europe, they are able to manage, and what can we do with the size of India and the population size of India? Can we do something better? Can we,
yeah.
because these like a lot of politicians and other people, they just go on a holiday and just come back. But can we bring in something is the question from the West.
Yeah, so obviously, European countries, if I would want to talk about them, so they actually believe in waste to energy because, of course, they have winters for a longer duration and they need a lot of energy for heating their places. So that's why they believe in converting the segregated waste into energy, and that's how they solve their waste related menace. And coming to a few countries like Japan, Japan actually requests people to segregate into 40 different categories. So they have public bins. Say they don't even have door-to-door collection. They have public bins, and these bins are not one or two. They are like 40 bins, which is placed in multiple spots. And believe me, people follow very well there. They get their waste on a weekly basis in that spot and put it in the respective bins. And that's how, there the recycling is moving in a very good direction. And I think for India, we have to take a mix of both the solution, because waste to energy, although it's a good idea, but as I was saying, it is mostly used for heating in European countries. So here, if we are moving towards that idea, then we should basically look at converting into normal electricity so that it can be used in our normal grid and not just for heating. And also, instead of converting into energy, it's always better to convert it back as a resource, so that, as I was referring earlier, mining can be reduced, right? So we have multiple other ideas for having energy, like renewable sources. We have so many other sources to actually generate energy, but we just have waste to actually get converted into resource. So we should focus on converting the waste into resource by ensuring processing of e-waste, processing of all the waste, like Japan is doing. So it should be a mix of solutions from multiple countries, and not just follow a particular country and just go by what they say. So it should be based on the demography of India and the behavior that India has currently. And also, I would say that we also, I mean, if I talk about my grandparents, they definitely did not have much to waste when they were of my age. So they had wet waste with which they used to give to the cattle, and plastic was not there back then. And we used to, I mean, my grandpa usually says that the oil or all the vegetables used to come in the tricycle rickshaws, and they used to get their refillable, reusable containers and get it filled. So we can take lessons from our previous generations as well, and implement couple of solutions from that. So it should be a mixture of multiple solutions, which is being currently followed across the world.
Yes, thank you. I mean, any other questions? Anybody else? Have no more questions. Mostly we have answered everything. Any other questions can be taken?
Madam, can you suggest few projects for our students? Maybe AI-based
Can be
projects.
done also as engineering and master's level project, yes.
Yes, we can definitely look into that. It would be good if we could have a separate meeting to, discuss this separately, because internally we are looking to have interns from engineering background to help us in developing few application or even macros for our Excel-based monitoring tool, and also to improve the process of collection. As I was saying, the focus is more on using technology for monitoring the waste being processed in ULB level. So it would be really good to work with the students. So I would request if we could have a separate meeting for it to just get a understanding of the levels of the students in the college, and based on that we can map the requirement and probably assign it to them. But we would
Yeah.
definitely look at a long-term internship program, because a month's internship program actually doesn't work. We do not get much output, and as we are an NGO, we do not have extra workforce who could focus completely on interns. So we look at a minimum of 3 months internship kind of thing. So yeah, so it would be good to know the skill sets of the students and then map the requirement accordingly and come up with few projects.
Yeah, thank you, madam. I'll talk to you after the program.
Sure.
So we can have a short meeting and then decide.
Surely.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for being so patient with me, and I hope the session was insightful and you learned at least few things new from the session today, and looking forward to see a couple of you participating with us or joining us in this initiative in one or the other way, either as an individual level, on an individual level, segregating your waste, or as a technologist, joining our hands to bring in some solution in place. So yeah, thank you so much for giving this opportunity again, Rajeshwari ma'am, and I would be really happy to take this forward and have few students working with us on our projects. Yeah.
Thank you, madam. It was very informative.
Thank you.